Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Marsili. I'm the Dean of Admission at Roger Williams University. We're thrilled to have you all join us tonight for our session. And I'm joined by two of my colleagues who I'll allow for them to introduce themselves. But like I said, we're excited that you can join us. We hope that we are able to provide you the information you need. And if not, we certainly will encourage you to ask questions in the chat feature, and we will get to them either during the presentation or afterwards. I will let you know we are recording this session. So if you could please put your question in the chat, that would be appreciated. I'm going to hand this over to Allison Chase-Padula to kick us off.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Chase-Padula. I'm the Assistant Provost for Student Success, and I'm delighted to be with you here tonight. And along with me is my friend Carol. Carol?
Thanks so much, Allison. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Sacchetti. I serve as the Assistant Dean of Students in Student Life, and I'm also the Director of Student Programs, Leadership, and Orientation. So some of you, I probably met your students, or if the students are on, met you at orientation. So we're so looking forward to having you join the community. It feels like it's going to happen tomorrow, but we're excited for the next 2 weeks.
Thanks, Carol. We are really excited that you took some time out of your day today to spend a little bit of time with us, and hopefully Carol and I will share some information for you that we think is helpful for both our new students and our families getting ready to start with us shortly, and also hopefully answer those questions that we know are on lots of folks' minds. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and hope that this is going to work. Bear with me here for just a second as we get Zoom to. So Amanda, if you can just give me permission to share, if it's going to let us. Well, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead because I'm good on the fly, and we'll just start talking. And if the screen should allow us to share, we'll get things up as soon as we can. So as Carol and I mentioned, one of the things that we really like to do is work with our students who are brand new, first generation or first in family, however you'd like to refer to yourself, because I think it's such a unique population and a population that's always just so excited about starting. So that's really fun for us to work with all of you. So I thought it would be helpful to just share some of the general differences between first in family or first generation students and other students that we might come in, because I think it really highlights how special this group is. So typically when we ask generally college students why they're going to college, we hear things like improved employment opportunities, hoping to make more money and to get a good job. Those always come up as the top reasons. And just a little bit different is this group, who often will tell us that while they too are preparing for their professional lives, also high on their list is financial gain and opportunities and helping their families. And what I think is really neat about that is that sense of wanting to give back both to their families and to their communities. And I think it's one of the things that makes first generation students really special, both on our campus and in general in higher ed. And when you look at some of the folks who they too call themselves first generation students, you're in really great company. Look at some of the wonderful folks like Michelle Obama, Maya Sotomayor, Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Kwan. It's a really distinguished group of folks who they too found themselves in the seat that you're in, either sending a student off who's the first in your family or being the first one in your family. So want you all to be really proud of yourselves and of your students, and know that we're going to really be here to help you in every step of that way. We're seeing that first and family college students are representing about half of our US population. So that number has been really growing, which is exciting to see. About 20% of first and family students report English is not their first language. And 61% report wanting to give back. So to go back to what I said a little bit earlier, that altruism of wanting to make their family proud, wanting to make their community proud, and really wanting to make a change in the world. Some of the things that Carol and I thought would be important to talk about is just giving you a little bit about the structure of the university calendar. I think it helps put things into context and helps you understand kind of what the semester experience will look like. Our university calendar is really made up of 2 full-term semesters with a winter break in between. And so that's certainly different from what you're used to in high school. You'll be completing a semester with your classes for just that semester. And then in the very next semester that you register for in the spring, you'll have 4 or 5 brand new classes to start. Move-in is happening really soon, as we alluded to. And maybe, Carol, can you talk a little bit about move-in on the 26th and 27th and what that'll look like?
Sure. And I know that this is such an anxious time, right? Have I purchased everything I've seen at Target? What do I still need? You know, and I think it's a time of just that. Have I gotten everything and have I done everything? So our move-in dates are the 26th and 27th. If your student is attending August orientation or is invited to another program, is a incoming recruited athlete, they're going to receive a different date from their coach or sponsor. And if people have specific questions, please feel free to put it in the chat and I can confirm those. Students are going to get an email and they're going to be able to designate and pick what time on the 26th or 27th for them to check in, for up to 2 family members to come and help them get their room set up. So I know some families are trying to book that hotel room. Go ahead and book the room. If you book it for the night of the 26th to come on the 27th and there's a concern with a time, you can reach out to me and we have a slide at the end with our contact info. And I'll be more than happy to kind of help manage and get you in for that date and time. Because we want to make sure, especially those families who are coming from far away, you get a hotel room, you get situated. And that can be one thing off the to-do list because we realize there's probably things being added each day to really make sure you have everything and you're not forgetting anything. And we're going to help with that as well. We really want to make sure that the students know to check their RWU email because we're going to send some key reminders that are going to help students to fill out a few items from the admissions to-do list that we've been sending all summer. We really want to make sure that students have that information in their hand to help expedite their process when they're waiting at move-in. Yes, well, there'll be a line of, to get a key and to get an ID, of course, but we can help them by getting some of those to-do list items done even before they get onto campus.
Wonderful.
And for students who might be commuting, you'll be checking in on that Friday, August 27th. And again, you'll pick a time to come to campus to get your ID, your parking pass, and to really get situated and settled.
Carol, will you also talk a little bit about fall orientation and what that looks like?
Sure. I know that some of you have come to June orientation and some of you are coming to August orientation. And as Amanda and Allison could tell you, there's so much we want to cover and we can't make orientation in June 5 days. It's not feasible. And there's some great nuggets of information that we want to share with you right before classes start. I will steal this from Allison. We talk about tutoring at June orientation and August orientation. And students listen and students ask us questions. But the thought of going to physics tutoring or calculus tutoring isn't maybe real until the day before classes start or those few days. You want to be prepared. There are some topics we talk about at June orientation. We cover over the summer and we go into more depth during the fall orientation program. Additionally, we want you to get to know campus. We want to make sure you get your tour at fall orientation, that you feel a sense of our community by going to one of our many socials at night where your student is meeting other students. And it's not a scheduled time. We're working to book some food trucks each night so students can just sit, grab an ice cream, grab a coffee, grab a slice of pizza, and just talk to other people and really make those connections. But we also want to give students some of that downtime. They might be going to a session and then they start getting anxious knowing, well, where's my class and where are things coming? We want them to feel comfortable here on campus, to come and meet with some of us, but also to say, hey, I want to take a walk around campus and get my schedule down. So we really use that time to really make bonds with our first year class, but also get them connected to various administrators besides Amanda, Allison, and myself. And it's a nice chance for students, like I said, to learn a little bit more about campus, to get their schedules down. What does the dining hall have to offer? When am I going to work out? And really get their personal schedule done.
One of the most popular things during fall orientation is always the peer mentors doing classroom tours. So to take some of that nervousness, we know folks are always a little bit nervous the first day of classes, and that's totally normal and to be expected. We will actually walk you around campus so you can find where all of your classes are, get the lay of the land, so to speak. So fall orientation is a great way, as Carol mentioned, to come in, to meet people, to get settled, and then hear what you really need to be feeling really good about the start of classes. We'll start classes on Tuesday, August 31st. And so you will start your normal class schedule that day through the end of the week. As Carol mentioned, there'll be all kinds of fun things planned for the week, but we really want to get folks focused on starting classes on August 31st. There's time, the first week, first few days of classes for adjustments to be made to schedules when there needs to be. I just always remind folks that you should get familiar with our academic calendar, and you can find it right on the website. Just type in academic calendar, and that calendar, both for students and families, highlights a lot of those important dates. So obviously the first day of class is on there. Things like the last day to change your meal plan. So if you find that you'd like to have a little bit more for your meal plan, you can make that change by the 14th. And it lays out kind of the schedule for the entire first semester. I also wanted to call attention to final exams being December 13th through the 16th. Particularly important for those of you who might live a little bit further away and need to make some travel arrangements. You're starting to maybe think about that. Those are the days where we'll be set for exams. And once students have completed their exams, obviously they leave for the semester. So want to make sure you have those dates. Faculty will be sharing when your actual final exam is for each of your classes once you meet with them during the first week of the semester. But that just gives you kind of a little bit of a context of what the academic calendar looks like. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the differences between high school and college. And certainly if you were here with us in June orientation, you heard a bit about this, but some of the highlights that we really want to get students and their families thinking about is major difference is the independence, right? In college, students are often for the first time on their own, maybe living on campus or you're commuting. You have more autonomy to be making your own decisions and deciding some important things, whether it's what your class schedule is going to be like, where you're going to be working, what kinds of things you're going to be joining on campus. So a lot of students really look forward to that. It's a chance for you to spread your wings a little bit, to try some new things, maybe get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but it's definitely more independent. And with that comes a significant time commitment. So you all are used to your high school schedule where you went to school all day during certain hours, Monday through Friday, and you really could count on that schedule. And you could probably also count on homework and independent study time later on in the day. College looks different. You are registered for anything from 15 credits to 18 credits. And what that translates to is the amount of time you're spending in a class. So for instance, if you are taking a 5-class schedule and it's 15 credits, that's 15 hours a week that you're physically in that class, you're meeting with your class. On top of that, though, we like to give the general idea that for every hour you're in class, you're going to be spending another hour to 3 hours a week studying for that class, reviewing your notes, maybe working on problem sets if it's math, working on experiments if you're in science. So when you add that all together, what that really comes out to is a full-time job. So I tell students all the time, college is your job. So when you think about a typical job these days, 40, 50, however many hours, be thinking about that's the structure you're going to have in college. And you're not going to have it structured for you as much as you're going to need to start making some of that structure yourself. So we often will recommend to students that to supplement that time that they're in class, you want to be building in the extra time for you to prepare for the class. But we also want you to have balance in your life. And so if you're working a job, you like to go to the gym, you play the piano, whatever it is that you like to spend your time doing, that we help you figure out how to make that all happen in your schedule. You also want to be thinking about the time you're going to spend on campus. So whether you're living on campus or you're a commuter, because this is your full-time job, we want you to be here on campus with us. And that's certainly easier for residential students, right? They live here. But if you're a commuter, we want you to be here with us on campus too. We want you to spend time in between your classes here. We want you to go to the library, take advantage of all the academic resources. We want you to join a club or organization, which Carol will talk a little bit more about in a bit. Those things all add up to your full college experience. And like I said, because you're going to be more independent students, you're going to be in the driver's seats. So we're going to look to you to make decisions. And that's different, right? In the past, your family was often the ones making those decisions. And it's not to say that your family isn't going to be a part of your decision-making now. They certainly will be, I'm sure, for many of you. But you get to decide on some of the things that are going to be important to you, what you might want to be studying, what your class schedule looks like. So we will be communicating with students. So when Carol mentioned earlier, we're sending these emails to you, those are going to go to students' RWU accounts. And so sometimes families will call and say, I have a question about something. And so we are limited without a student's permission in what we can share with you. So it's not to say that we don't want to partner with families, because we certainly do. But we want to make sure that the student is the person who's asking those questions and having the conversations. And then if the student's comfortable in involving the family in that, we can often have a conversation that way too. So it's a little bit different from high school, but it's important, and it's a really important part in the development of a student.
I think another thing, Allison, is we're talking about the differences, and you say the students in the driver's seats. This is a conversation, and if your family members are taking notes and this is what you listen to, we talk a lot about you're in the driver's seat. You're getting up to go to class. Someone's not waking you up. You're looking at, what homework needs to be done. How are you preparing? And I know there was a question about it in the chat. Meal plans. When are you going to eat? What does that look like? Are you eating a balanced meal? And I do just want to cut in about meal plans, because sometimes those are the most important questions, right? When is my student going to eat? How do I know when I'm supposed to eat? If you are a student who is going to be living on campus and you're in a residence hall, because you're a first year student, you're required to have a full meal plan. So our meal plans, we have 3 different plans that give you a wide number of meals, and that is a swipe. So we do not have unlimited swipe meal plans. So a student may have a 200 block plan, a 225 block plan, or a 230 block plan. That number is the number of meals you have. And sometimes for students, they're unaware that in college, in most colleges, the meals on the weekend is brunch and dinner. So sometimes there isn't breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's where that block plan comes out. And students will see the times in the dining halls and between classes or between meetings or work study opportunities will make time to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they'll fill their plate and really look at to have a balanced diet. And again, students, it's great to have burgers and fries. How are you experimenting? Maybe your biggest thing, as Allison said, is trying something new. Maybe you've never had this type of fish at home. You try it in college, right? You're experimenting. You're starting small. You're trying something new in the dining hall one week, And the next week, you're going to an academic lecture on research that a faculty member is doing, right? You're trying new things. You also, students, and for families to know that every meal plan comes with what's called our Hawk dollars that can be used at retail locations. So you might see Amanda, Allison, and I at the Starbucks in Global Heritage Hall using some of our Hawk dollars to buy a coffee. You might get a smoothie. You might be getting something after hours. That money is used at different retail locations for student use and students. Part of that is managing that budget, you know. Every time you get a coffee or you get something at Lower Commons, you get a receipt to tell you how many Hawk dollars you have left. Well, some of our students get a smoothie every day and that adds up and you run out of Hawk dollars. So how are you helping to budget not only money you're making in a work study job, but your Hawk dollars? So I'll turn it back to Allison, but I know that that's always the biggest thing is when will my student know when to go to lunch during their schedule or when do they go to breakfast?
Carol, that was a great overview of the meal plans. Just want to talk real briefly about the predictors of success. Students who were here in June heard me talk a little bit about this, but I thought it was important to mention again. The biggest predictor of success is attending all classes. I can't say that enough. So attending all classes. Sometimes students think because they saw something in a movie once that, oh, I don't really, it's optional to go to class. You're investing a lot to attend this institution and you want to get the full experience. So you want to make sure you're there for all of your classes. Our faculty are going to discuss things that are sometimes not in the textbook, not in the materials, right? It's part of the experience of having a conversation, a dialogue in the class about the material that you're studying. And if you're not in class, you miss that. You also want to be prepared for class. So in the first few days of the classes, faculty are going to go over what's called a syllabus. And I like to call that the roadmap for your semester in that particular class. It will outline every single day of class, the topics that you'll be covering, and what materials you're responsible for completing before that class starts. Sometimes students make the mistake of not reading the materials or not doing the problem set. And that really puts you behind in the class because if you haven't had time on your own to really absorb that material, when the professor starts talking about that material that day, it's going to be the first time you're hearing it. So preparing for class is super important. You're going to be doing some of that work independently. That's where the homework time falls in. But there's also great opportunities to work on materials with others. And one of the best things that we have here on campus is our tutoring center. It's free and open to all students. It's for help in math, writing, and science. We also have some tutoring available in other subjects. So if you let us know what you'd like to work on a bit more, we can help you out with that. And so it might be giving a first draft of your paper and to have somebody take a look at. We have both peer tutors and faculty tutors. And we really find that the students who are most successful are the ones using the tutoring center. It's not just students who are struggling with materials. It's the student who has a B and wants to get that A. So I really encourage you to make that a regular part of your schedule. Carol, will you talk about the opportunities for getting engaged on campus? Because I think that's a really fun thing that's important for the students and families to know about.
Yeah. So part of being on campus is what are you doing besides class, right? How are you doing something to learn those soft skills? Whether it is, improving your communication in a group, learning that time management, which is so crucial for you to be successful here. And my office is home to 8 major organizations and 70 clubs where students will get the opportunity to meet on September 8th at our involvement fair. We want to see students go to events. We want, especially first year students, to feel part of the community that we do a program called Weeks of Welcome, where every day from September 1st to September 30th, there is a different event for students to go to not only learn about clubs and organizations and make connections socially, but also to learn about different departments and to see what they offer. And we think that classes are so important that is our actually Weeks of Welcome event. That first day of class is class. So we want everyone to start that first day comfortable and then starting your schedule, making plans to maybe drop in a club meeting and see what that's all about. Campus engagement can also be going to tutoring and make a connection with a class tutor. It could be working in a work study job at one of our offices, or one of the many offices that I added the work study link. It could be going to the gym and seeing the same group of students working out the same time, and you have that conversation. It can be watching some of our athletic teams, compete. How are you doing something outside of classes to build your engagement on campus? For some students, as Allison says, it's studying in the library with a different group of students. It's studying in a different academic building. It's going to office hours from a faculty member or going to one of those academic lectures. How are you engaging in some part of campus? I like to talk about clubs and organizations because you, as students, might have done something in high school and you want to continue it, or you want to try something new in college. So, for example, we have a campus radio station. Maybe you've always wanted a radio show and you see what the requirements are, and it sounds like something to fill that plate known as college. So, for students to know the plate, and I'm stealing this from another administrator on campus, your classes are your plate. You have to have that plate at the buffet. You need that plate to be successful. When you are engaging on campus, you're adding things to that plate. Maybe you're really not interested in working out after you've worked out a couple times. You take that food off your plate, you add something else. How are students kind of creating their overall well-roundedness of campus? You've got to balance your academics and everything you do outside of class.
So it's kind of like a buffet. You can make some choices, decide what you like and go back for more, and eliminate those things that you weren't such a fan of. But I love that analogy because I think that's so true. One of the other things that we want to stress is part of your success is going to be on how you manage your wellness. And I think if there's nothing else that we've learned in the last couple of years dealing with the global pandemic is the importance of well-being, good mental health, and taking care of ourselves and those that we care about. And so we will be focusing on this during the first semester with all of our new students, talking about ways that you need to take care of yourself, and whether that's accessing some of the support services on campus, health services, the counseling center, utilizing the gym, finding places to do those things you really care about so that you're having the balance in your schedule. Again, like Carol said, your plate is your classes, but you can't just have a plate, right? You need to have more on it. So we want you to have a well-rounded experience. And most of all, we want you to be happy, right? The most successful students are those students who are managing these things well and who are having fun and enjoying themselves on campus. We know that grit and resilience are part of the most important things that you can have as a student and as a person in life, right? And when I talk about grit, that's really having the determination and the positive attitude going into experiences. Some of our most resilient students are the ones who will tell us later on, well, that experience was tough for me. It was a challenge for me to get through that class, but I worked really hard at it and I'm proud of myself now. That's how we want you to look at this experience. Some things are going to be easy for you. Some things are going to be a bit harder. We don't expect you to know everything. That's why you're coming to college. You're coming here to learn and to experience. And so I don't ever want students to come in and be, doubting themselves. You applied here because you wanted to come here and that you found something that was attractive about our community. And we saw in you the potential to be really successful here. Now you put the work in, you work hard, you enjoy yourself this semester. And I promise you at the end of it, you'll be proud of yourself. You'll be proud of your experience. And that's really what we want for all of our students, is to thrive. And my screen is now stuck again. Here we go. So one of the things Carol and I wanted to stress to you is communicating your expectations. So students having that conversation with your family about what their expectations are for you as a new college student. Family members sharing with your student what you are expecting of them in this coming year. And then really opening up the lines to share back and forth what's going on. So families to be asking about your students' experience, asking those open-ended questions so you get more than a one-word answer, hopefully. And students remembering how important it is for you to be sharing what's going on in your life here, particularly because you are the first in your family. Your family's going through this with you, maybe from afar. It's their first time too. And so it's really important to be sharing those things. And we want to make sure that we invite you for a wonderful weekend that Carol plans, which is our homecoming and family weekend in October. Carol, can you mention a little bit about that and what that looks like?
Sure. So our homecoming and family weekend is right after move-in and check-in is my next big thing to tackle. And we have some great traditional events. And students, this is a great time for your family members. And at this point, based on what's going on in the world, we're limiting to 2 family members at this time to come join you. Maybe you're going to have lunch with you during our autumn festival, or experience some food trucks, or what is it really like to walk on a college campus? We've seen students in the past take their family members and show them the library, or where do they study, or here is this class. We also offer some fun things for families to do, from our casino night and late night mentalists to really just getting a chance for families to experience campus through their students' eyes. And I want to head back to what Allison said. Students, you're sharing your experience. So what does that mean? Maybe you're sharing some of the terminology on campus that you've picked up, right? You're using some of those acronyms that you don't really know what they were that first day, but now you're talking because you're part of the Roger community and you're using some of those acronyms. And you're also sharing kind of, what do you need? What's that expectation going to be like when you come home, when you've been away for a while? When do you want to come home? And I would say for families, what kind of communication is it, right? I text more with my mom now, and it's easier to get those quick answers in a long conversation, right? What's going to make sense for families and students? Sharing your schedule, right? If your family is calling you at 9:30 on a Friday morning, you have class, you're not going to answer your phone. You might want to share that with your family. For some families, I can only imagine that Saturday morning, an 8 a.m. phone call from home is probably not the best time to check in because most of our students are probably sleeping in. So what works? What does the social, are you communicating through social media? Are you sharing photos, right? I know some students that love to take a photo of what they're eating for dinner and sending it to their family members because the food is that good. Or they've maybe done some great artwork in an art class and they're sharing that with their families. And students, you want to know what's going on at home. So making sure that conversation is asking how maybe siblings are, or it's always interesting to hear that most people forget their family pet and really want to have that connection, because families are going to tell you what's going on at home and you're going to share what's going on here on campus. So you have that great experience for both places. And when you see your families are texting or calling, answer them, right? Don't, as Allison said, don't give the one word answer. Everything's not fine. What'd you have for dinner? Explain that. What are you learning in class? I think sometimes we hear some fascinating things that students are learning or experiencing. Share that with your family. As Allison said, it's their first time too. They want to know, what is your advising appointment like? What are you taking next semester? What is that class that everyone talks about, that you keep sharing? What are you learning in it? So really making them feel part of the connections that you have with Roger.
So as you're getting ready to join us soon, what are the things you should be thinking about to prepare? Seeking out those resources. So if you have questions that are specific around financial aid or your academic schedule, reaching out to us. We're happy to talk with you about those things and make sure that you have everything you need, as Carol said, to get in that express lane for checking in when you come to move-in day. Think about the things that are going to be a bit different for you, and starting to make some of those plans. I know there were questions in the chat around work study and payroll jobs, and Carol shared those links there. We'll also be talking about that in a brand new first year learning community that we're going to have for all of our new students. So all of our brand new students will be in a 1-hour meeting every week for about 10 weeks in the start of the semester. And that's going to focus on what are the most important things in the timeline of the semester. So, first week, getting to meet folks in your class, talking about some of the differences between high school and college that you're already seeing, talking about community engagement. We're going to spend lots of time on resources. So there'll be a lot of support around you throughout your first semester here. Things that you can already be doing that might give you an extra little boost is finding a mentor. And that could mean something different from everyone. We assign a peer mentor for all of our new students, and hopefully you've already heard from that person. Hopefully you've responded back to them. Finding somebody that you feel comfortable with on campus, whether that's a peer or a faculty or staff member. Don't be afraid to ask us questions. Carol just alluded to the acronyms and abbreviations we have for things. If you don't understand something, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, can you just explain that? Again, we don't expect you to know what all of those things are coming in. And really asking for what you need. Sometimes students assume that we just know what's going on for them. And that can be really hard, right? Like when we don't know that something's on your mind that you might need some information, please speak up and let us know. Family, same thing. If you have a question about something or a concern, let us know what that is so that we can get you the right information and make sure that your student's taken care of. Carol, were you going to add something there?
Wanted to say is the big difference that we didn't talk about in regards to high school and college is all the resources that are here for students. So there are so many different offices and staff whose whole job it is to help with students, right? We have a whole division on student life. What does that mean? From residence life to commuting to athletics, that there are staff here whose whole job it is to really make sure that we have resources for you. I joke that my whole job is part of it is being like a cruise director and helping to plan events and make connections with students. And for a lot of us, we're walking around campus. You're going to see a lot of administrators. You're going to see Allison and faculty members and our vice presidents who are like walking around campus. A lot of us say hi to everybody. We want to be those students that maybe you saw in one of these webinars during the summer. You remember us from orientation, or we just look like we might know an answer to something. Always stopping to ask, hey, it might not be you. And I think sometimes some of us get a lot of emails. It may not be me, but I'm going to make that connection so you can see all the support that Allison put on the slide. There's so many people here that want to make you successful, not just from the faculty and staff, but students. It's part of being that engaged community. Some students might be sitting here now and looking at some of these student support systems, and you're going to utilize them as a first year student. And you know what? Maybe next year you are one of these positions and you're paying it forward. Students want to help other students be successful. We see that when students are holding doors, or students are asking questions, or these, peer support, or just texting and checking in. How was your day? Use all of us. That's part of being on campus, is asking for help. And a lot of times, some people feel funny, maybe asking for help. As administrators, we're doing that all the time. If I have a question on something academically for a student, I don't know the answer, I'm going to reach out and connect that student to Allison's area and really kind of make those connections. So don't ever be afraid to ask anybody a question.
So just want to remind you that we know that the next few weeks are exciting. We're excited that you picked Roger Williams for your education. We want you to have a lot of pride in being the first in your family. Just think for a moment what a remarkable thing that is that you're doing. You're going to be the first one in your family to be a college student and earn your degree. We're really proud of you for coming here, for setting your sights on that college degree. Be confident in your abilities that brought you here. All of your hard work has paid off. That hard work in high school, getting through a really challenging high school experience with a pandemic going on. you have made it to this point, and we want you to feel really proud of that. We want you to know that we're going to do everything we can to help you be successful this fall and throughout your first year. We've talked a lot about the resources. I just want to mention that on November 8th, we're going to be having our inaugural First Generation Day celebration on campus. So you'll be the very first class of first year students to be part of the First Generation Day. So want you to know that that's coming up. There's going to be all kinds of fun things happening on that day. There's going to be an evening celebration with a big photo campaign. So we really want to invite our new students to be part of this. Really going to be celebrating not only you all, but all of the first generation students, faculty, and staff on our campus. So we're excited that we're going to be doing that for the first time, and we wanted to mention that to you tonight. And then Carol and I just wanted to make sure that we spent some time. I know we've answered some things that were in the chat, but really want to turn it over to you all to see what kinds of questions or things that you'd like to talk about, and wanted to make sure that you had our contact information. If there's something that you'd like to reach out and talk to us separately about at another time, that's fine too. But why don't we open it up to those questions? And Amanda, how would we like to do that?
If they want to put it in the chat, I can just kind of read them out loud and direct them as needed.
Awesome, thank you.
We've been handling some inside so far in the chat. Some good questions. Lots of questions, Allison, about purchasing books and when to do so.
Great, awesome question. So we usually recommend that you can order them ahead of time if you are confident that you are keeping the schedule that you have. So most of your professors, if they haven't done already, they will be doing very soon. They'll be posting your textbooks in the Bridges site, which is the learning platform that we showed you how to use when you were here for June orientation. And if you need some help with that, I know both my office, the advising office, and Carol's orientation advisors will be happy to help you with that. You can also contact the bookstore directly. And they have a program where they will pull all of those books for students and package them so that you just show up at the bookstore and they have it packaged and ready to go for you. Some of our upperclassmen students will wait into a class or two to see what they think they're really going to need. My rule of thumb is if it's a required book, it'll say that. The faculty member will tell you this book is mandatory for the class. What's different in college is that sometimes faculty will also list additional readings or further readings. That's totally optional. That may be for a class where a student's particularly interested in something or wants to dive deeper into the topic. You're certainly welcome to purchase those materials and look at those materials, but it's not absolutely necessary. So for now, I would say just look at what the required textbooks are. Sometimes there will also be classes that will have an electronic material that needs to be purchased. That will also be listed as part of your requirements.
Allison, I just know that if we just want to ask a little bit too, is school supplies, right? I think in elementary school and in high school, you got that list. And I know that's always a question that someone asks me. And
that's a good one.
And because we don't do a list anymore of all the things you need to bring, but students, I would look at is what are you going to need to be successful, right? Some of you may take notes on your computer. Some of you like to handwrite out because you can read your own writing. I always recommend whenever you're going to classes, bring in a notepad and a pen, right? You should be coming to class prepared, whatever that is for you, kind of goes a long way. Like just showing up at class with yourself doesn't really do well. How organized are you, right? Do you need a folder for each class? Do you do that as a physical folder? Is that an electronic folder? But I think the misconception is, you know, I didn't get a school supply list. And I heard from some students at orientation. It's like, well, we don't do that. What are you going to use to be successful, right? Is it Post-it notes? Is it writing things down? Is it electronic? But I always like to tell students, paper and a pen, you can never go wrong going to class without something to write with.
I love that, Carol, and maybe we should start giving a list of school supplies. I think, Carol's right on. Whatever you have used in high school that you felt comfortable with, so whether electronic or in paper, I always suggest having some highlighters, some loose leaf paper, a good binder, and the most important thing that I would say you need is a good calendar.
Mhm.
And so I know students have all different kinds of preferences about a calendar, but you want to have something that you can physically put due dates in and write things in. The bookstore sells kind of a small one that has really big spaces for writing. That's fine. You can purchase them at most of your stores. I like that. And the other thing I like a lot too is a bigger calendar that you could either put on your desk or hang on your wall in your room. And what I always tell students to do, and we'll do this with them in their first year learning community, is that we'll go through that syllabus, that guide map for each of your classes, and put in all of your major due dates. And I love when students have it hanging in their room, because at any point you can look over and know kind of what you've got left to do. So loose leaf paper, a couple of folders, a binder, pens, pencils, a good calculator, or at least if you have a good calculator on your phone, that'll work too. Post-it notes, highlighters, kind of the general things, a stapler. Those are the general things, a tape, kind of what you would think about what would be on your desk at work or on your home office at home that you like to have. That all of the students are going to have desk space in their room. So there's plenty of storage for that. I know lots of folks have been asking us about, what else to bring. I always refer folks back to that great list that the housing office has put together that's available online, because it's nice to just kind of go through it and check some of those things off. But I think the school supplies, that and batteries, and I also recommend a flashlight.
I think
And
also,
I'm going to add to that, having a son who will start his freshman year. We use that list digitally, but we also added an extra phone charger.
That's a good one.
So just just something to think about. Phone charger for the room and one in his backpack, so when he's in a building or somewhere else, he can charge his phone. So
that's a good one.
a couple of questions, Allison, that I thought were going to pop up. A couple of questions around Hawk Dollars that I want to get to. I want to get to the one on convocation, but just to close out this conversation is several students asking where they find that list of books that they need to purchase.
Okay, so the list of books would be on Bridges. So if their faculty member has already posted it, and if it's not there, I would check a little bit closer to the semester, or they can also contact the bookstore. If you contact the bookstore and let them know your class and the section number that you're in, they can help direct you to what your books are.
Excellent, thank you. There's a question about families on the 27th, and I'm guessing it's referring to convocation. Carol, do you want to say something about convocation?
I will take on convocation. So convocation and families are welcome to come and watch. So students, convocation is that academic ceremony that truly makes you a Roger Williams student. So it is a ceremony where you and your entire class in class shirts will process into the same field you'll be graduating from in a number of years. And you take your academic pledge. And that is the first time as a collective class, your students are recognized as their class. So it's a great academic ceremony. You take our academic pledge, and families sit and watch. It's a 1-hour ceremony. We do have a convocation lunch that day where families can purchase tickets, and students, you will receive your ticket at check-in. So it's a great way after moving in to kind of, before you say goodbye to your student, to really be part of our tradition here on campus.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. And I think you answered the question about the Hawk Dollars, asking if they expire. And I do believe they expire each semester. Is that correct?
Hawk Dollars, actually, if you have 30 Hawk Dollars at the end of the fall semester, those get added to the spring semester. Hawk Dollars go semester to semester, but the end of your first year, your Hawk Dollars will not follow you. So use them up, budget appropriately.
Great. And Allison, how do we access Bridges?
Right. So you know what? I will actually, let me put something in the chat, because I think it'll be easier to describe. Let me find something that'll give you the simple instructions.
Excellent. While Allison gets that in the chat, any other questions we can answer for all of you? Things that may come up?
Amanda, while people are typing, I just want to say, as we know, there's still a lot happening. As students are getting ready and families are getting ready to, depart and get situated here at Roger. For those students who might be commuting, this is a great time to make sure, what route are you getting to Roger? Do you know how to get gas in your car? Where do you get gas? How do you judge traffic? For those students who might be leaving and moving here, what is your mailing address? How do I get mail? How do I get packages? And students would just address information. As soon as Allison puts something in the chat, I will put mailing addresses for students. So as you're starting to send items to Roger, or sometimes students, you get mail like cards, not electronically, but like real letters. How would you pick up mail? And you can do that at our mail room, which is conveniently located right on campus. Students should be aware of certain offices and hours, and we're going to put some signage around campus when you move in, so you know when the bookstore is open that first week of school. Where is the mail room? How am I going to utilize some of those services? There is no limit to the packages to the mailroom. The mailroom might tell you you've hit your quota of Amazon, but as someone who gets a lot of packages here, there's no limit. We know that a lot of us are in that age where it's just so much easier to send something to Amazon, and 2 days later, it's here at your doorstep.
Great. Any other questions we can answer for you folks?
Let me just say I'm having a little bit of trouble getting things to pull up here. So what I'm going to say about bridges is that if you go to our main site and just type in bridges, you'll be brought to a page that explains everything about bridges. If you need help with remembering what your login is, you want to go back to the email that we sent you a little bit earlier this summer, right before orientation, that gives your login. And if you have any trouble with it at all, I'm going to put in our media tech office that can walk you through how to log into Bridges.
While Allison is doing that, I did just find the Bridges webpage that has a video.
Thank you, Carol.
So at least students, I'll put it in right after how to send mail, but it's a great video. I will tell you, I have learned more about Bridges this year just by watching the video. It's like a few minutes to familiarize myself on how can I help answer questions. So I think that's the great part, is we're all still learning with you, and when and how we, provide information from you, that's our learning to you. So there's the Bridges email. The meal plan does start at move-in on Wednesday. So again, on Thursday for move-in. If students are coming early for, again, athletic practices or orientation, we're going to make sure that you get taken care of with meals.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Allison and Carol. This has been great. Certainly, if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. I will put our admin@rw.edu in the chat. That is the admissions general email account. We answer any and all questions, and we will direct you to any office where appropriate, but certainly please reach out for any questions. We want the transition to college to be smooth and as little anxiety as possible. We want excitement and enthusiasm and just general calmness coming into this time. So if we can do anything to help with that, please let us know. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all in a few weeks. Thank you.
Hi,
everybody. Looking forward to seeing you on campus.